B. Hello and welcome to the Late Night Parents Radio Show. It's me, right now, just me, your host, Richie V, speaking to you live from WGBB 1240 AM in beautiful Long Island. Hope you had a good week. It's been a very busy week for me and for our teammates. Very shortly we should be joined by the one, the only. He's on the line. Teddy Ted, what's going on?
TV, what's up, man?
What's good?
This is an unconventional way of doing this show, but hey, we're here.
We're here. I mean, this is us. We're going to use technology to the best of our ability. And though you may not be sitting here with me, next to me at the desk, in your chair, with the orange mic, I know you're here.
Yes, as there's a car that's broken down on, where am I? Not far from the Cross Island Expressway, but definitely glad to be here. I wasn't here last week also, and you guys had a great show, so I said, why don't you guys do it 2 in a row?
Except it's not even us guys right now. It's just me.
It's just you.
It's just me.
All alone.
All alone. I'm staring at my camera where the good Dr. Michelle normally would be. So my camera's staring back at me. But wait, you know what? I am not alone. I have super producer Brian sitting on the other side of the glass of me. So I'm not alone.
Gotcha. Hey, there was so much that happened this week. Before we even get into anything, I want to definitely thank everyone that plays our show. Near and far, especially AM 1240 and 95.9. Rich, why don't you get us up to speed on what you were doing this week?
This was for 3 days out of the last week. Many thanks to the folks at Disney and their PR folks and the folks in Charlotte Raceway, Pitt Enterprises. So what I was doing, if you may be aware, Cars 3, that fantastic animated movie, is coming out for home video soon. They're going to do a Blu-ray release. I believe it's on November 7th, and 4K release on October 24th, I believe it is. I don't have the dates right in front of me. Sorry about that. But it's going to be released on home video soon. So as part of that, in order to, help us be able to speak about it and make our fans and listeners aware, I was able to experience the NASCAR experience that Cars simulates. Got to meet some very, very nice, wonderful, and well-known people. I had an experience unlike any other. Ted, I got to drive. I did not get to pilot it, but I got to sit in the passenger seat of a NASCAR race car for 3 laps at speed at Charlotte Raceway.
Really?
175 miles an hour, going through all the turns.
Oh.
The whole, what an experience it is down there. And it's something that we're going to be writing about it and doing a few articles on the blog so people can find out more about it. There's so much more to NASCAR than just cars going around in circles.
So there's more to NASCAR than them just saying that they won't be there won't be any kneeling from any members of the pit.
There's
the pit team.
There's much more to it than that. Even though that was not even mentioned.
Right.
While we were down there, believe it or not. But there's so much to it. It's such a family-oriented organization and activity. I have to wait until they ship us back the videos. We were able to experience and learn and take the same training, or the beginning training, that the pit crews do. So
okay.
there's some video of us, and we had multiple teams running around the pit lane, a simulated pit lane, changing tires, filling gas, jacking the car up, and we get to actually do that. So I was able to man the air gun for the rear left tires, swapping tires, swapping lug nuts.
So, Rich, would you say that NASCAR is an untapped market in the Northeast?
Totally. I mean, in the Northeast, sure. In New York, we have Watkins Glen. Of course, we have Pocono Raceway close by. Those are really the two largest raceways. We got Pocono Raceway, the Triangle. That's a speedway, and there are NASCAR sanctioned events held there. Watkins Glen, of course, is a road course where there's some sanctions. But let me tell you, especially down in Charlotte, I mean, it's basically the home of NASCAR because the NASCAR Hall of Fame is in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
And it's only about 13, 14 miles from Charlotte Speedway, and all the greats have their companies down there, and a lot of their car manufacturing sites, their factories. I mean, Petty's down there. Hendricks Motorsports is everywhere down there. It's the center of NASCAR. So when you're down there, you're in the middle of it. But when you go all over the country, there's I forget the number of racetracks, but it is something that we don't get to experience quite the way they do everywhere else. I don't know if it's because of the weather. NASCAR, even though they do have a season, they don't run the races all year long, but they do have events all year long. Once we get past November, it's kind of cold. Wouldn't be able to do racing, and of course you can forget it when there's snow on the ground, things like that. But it's definitely an untapped, or maybe even fair to say unappreciated market in the Northeast as opposed to the South.
Hey, was there some talk maybe a couple of years ago about NASCAR doing something in Staten Island, or is that just, or am I just kind of reaching right now?
No, you might not be reaching. Honestly, I don't remember anything about NASCAR in Staten Island. One of the things is really to get a NASCAR track going of any significant size. I mean, they vary from, let's see, I think it's it's either 2.5 or 2.2 miles that you have at Talladega Superspeedway, down to there's half-mile tracks, like I believe Dover's a half-mile track. But you still need such a large footprint of real estate to put one of these tracks together. I mean, you look at Charlotte, where I was, their entire complex is 2,200 acres of land. I mean, this is the mile-and-a-half track from which inside the track, in the infield, there are multiple tracks. Then you go outside, there's an oval. Then there's the world's only 4-lane drag strip, which is on the site. There's an animal sanctuary. There's recycling. I mean, the footprint of this location is huge. And, in the Northeast, and especially the New York area, we just don't have real estate of that size, So that's probably what makes it harder. I think in New York, in our area, we'd be better served, or be able to put up maybe just the drag strip part of it. Just a drag strip, like New Jersey has Englishtown, and we used to have drag strips, and we even had race courses actually on Long Island, but they've all since closed. And so there are movements to try to get a drag strip back in New York. It's funny, I was just at an event earlier today for an organization that's trying to put that together to get a drag strip back on Long Island. But yeah, it's one of those things. I think because of the weather, that might be what hinders it the most for the Northeast.
Oh, okay. So, along with that, I know I had. You know what? I gotta look into the archives because I did a NASCAR interview. It was maybe a year ago, maybe a little bit longer, but it was. But he wasn't like a prime time type person. He was like a second or third tier type person.
Gotcha. Well, that locations for new events and new venues weren't part of our discussions. We did get to speak to some pretty senior folks at NASCAR. And it did get to be part of some interviews, which, again, people who monitor our sister podcast and sister blog, Data Rocks, some of that will be published out there over the next couple of weeks. But, yeah, I mean, it would be great. If NASCAR could get up in New York, that would be awesome. But hey, I'm going to segue here a little bit because we have a guest on the phone.
Oh, really?
Yes, we do.
I think not just a regular guest, but Miss Jessie Nuez, who is called us on several occasions before, and we talked about from Walking Dead to Game of Thrones to all the above. But we have a very, very serious topic that we want to cover, and it's Puerto Rico and everything that's happening there.
Well, then, we won't delay her anymore. Jessie, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. How are you guys?
I'm doing very well, very well. As you hear, we've just getting back basically from a couple of trips. We've been running around. Ted, I know, is today. Ted was doing JETS, jets all day long.
Yes, I saw the pictures. You didn't seem happy at all.
We won. We kind of blew it. But we won.
A win is a win.
Well, that's all that matters. Yes, exactly.
A win is a win. So, big shout out to the Jets, their team, and their social media team for having me and a few of our friends come through. But Jessie, I've been watching, I've been reading, just like everyone else, and I text you behind the scenes to see how you were doing and how, if any of your family members were impacted, and that it just led me to that. So I want you to just take the floor on your thoughts over this last 11 days.
Well, again, thank you for having me. I love being on, so thank you for having me. It's been a tough 2 weeks, or even longer, because we also had Hurricane Irma. I do have a few family members that live on the island. They've been living on the island for the better part of their adult lives. I have a cousin who lost everything. Another cousin who we heard from. But we hear that in that town everyone's okay. I have friends who live on the island. Family members of friends who live on the island. And thankfully they're all good. But most of them lost a lot, right? But like I said, it's been tough to sit by and feel impotent, I guess, in what can be done to help, And what's frustrating to me, as a New Yorker, as a citizen, as a human being, is to see other people suffering. Mm-hmm. And to see other American citizens suffering, and it baffles my mind how it has taken so long. And the thing to note is, it's not to say that help isn't there, because the help has arrived. FEMA was there, but they didn't get the go-ahead until almost a week after the hurricane. Right, which is, you're losing time. And as we all are old enough to remember Katrina, an hour is an hour too late, let alone days, And it's baffling to me how we are, such a superpower. And all I keep hearing are things like, well, it's an island surrounded by big water. And to me, it's like, but you should have a contingency plan because it's an American territory. So a plan should already be in place. And we knew this hurricane was going to be a huge catastrophe. The Weather Center said the eye was going to hit Puerto Rico head on. So it's not like this was a surprise that the island was going to be hurt really extremely bad. But what baffles my mind is the inefficiency, is how long it's taken. We are in day 11? Day 10, 11,
right.
And we have the USS Comfort that won't arrive until Tuesday or Wednesday. Now is that we're having roads cleared. Today was the first day that they were able to get out to Vieques, and it just, Puerto Ricans have fought in every conflict that this country has been in. They have been citizens for 100 years. Mm-hmm. Why? Like, it's unconscionable to think that, hearing half-truths from the administration saying, oh, well, we've inspected every building, or we've been to every part of the island, when we know that's not true, when we see the images and we see people getting water from a creek, or, the community, the citizens of the community removing tree limbs on their own, writing SOS on top of their houses, not even having a house to be in. You know, it's really heartbreaking. And you know, being here on the mainland, it's disturbing because you feel like your hands are tied and you can't do anything.
I can't imagine having immediate family there, and you know those hours that went by before you could even make contact with them, before you could verify, you know, that people were just alive.
Exactly.
You know, there's something you said that I think for some reason, unless you're in the tri-state area, maybe a lot of people do seem to forget that the citizens of Puerto Rico are citizens of the United States.
Well, half of the U.S. didn't know.
Right.
So that just goes to show the state of our education.
Right.
But I think that's for another show.
Yeah, no, totally.
I agree with you. I agree with you that what troubles me, and what should trouble all of us, is it is a U.S. territory. There are 3 million or so American citizens there. And it should have been treated with the same urgency as Texas, as Louisiana, as Miami.
Yes.
But, you know, smaller things, like certain things, I say smaller because in my mind, I'm thinking Jones Act or certain things that should have happened should have been immediately.
Right. Stamped, yes. Approved, and done.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Absolutely. And it wasn't.
And I'm sorry, Jesse, but help should have been on the way immediately.
Absolutely. No. You know, decrees were signed. Before Irma hit Florida, there was already a plan in place. He had already signed the declaration, right? Saying, you know, you will get the help that you need. You know, and unfortunately, you know, it shouldn't be political. It shouldn't, but we know everything nowadays is. And I think this should open our eyes to the fact that there needs to be representation in D.C. for Puerto Rico, for the U.S. Virgin Islands that also has been devastated and also needs our help. You know, and I feel that, you know, without that representation, it's easy for people to be forgotten. It's easy to not have, you know, like Congress hasn't even put together an aid package at Rico, and we're in day 10, 11. Like, that baffles my mind.
Do you think that maybe this event gets the folks or the voters in Puerto Rico for the next time that it comes up for a vote to become the 51st state? Do you think that this changes the mind of a few people on the island or a majority populace on the island in either way to either say, you know what, we need to become a full state in order to make sure that we can get the full benefits in a timely manner the next time this happens? Or do you think it makes them say, okay.
They did vote recently to be the 51st state, but the administration pretty much put it in the back burner, you know, because that's not a priority. Unfortunately. And I know that they've had a few cycles where they have these elections, and for the most part, it's like, let's stay how we are. But this time around, it's like, okay, let's move forward to becoming the 51st state, you know? And the thing is, like, now is not the time to talk about the fiscal issues of the island, because if we want to keep it real, you know, within the 50 states, there are many states in this country that would be in the red, or if they aren't, they would be in the red if it weren't for states like New York and California bailing them out. Mm-hmm. So let's like keep it real with the hypocrisy of talking about the debt, because this has been something that, as we know, the president himself added to Puerto Rico's debt with his bankrupted golf course. So it just seems, I just feel like people have a short memory. Right. And they choose to remember what they want when it benefits them. And I feel like when people's lives are at stake, when you have people that haven't had water or food or just the basic necessities that we take for granted every day, it's disgusting that people are quick to talk about the fiscal irresponsibility of Puerto Rico, or we have a 1 million MREs. What more do they want? Well, there's over 3 million people there. They're children. They're the elderly. There's the highest diabetes rate in Puerto Rico. There are people that need their medications. When you have celebrities and when you have private companies like the Norwegian Cruise Line, like when you have others helping and when you have others helping more than your own government,
that's a problem.
I feel like that says a lot.
Right.
And their children who aren't in school. Today's October 1st. Their children aren't in school. We don't even know when they're going to be able to go to school. Most schools have been destroyed. So there's so many different topics that we can go on how they've been failed, and Puerto Rico has been failed in so many different ways. But yet, the truths that are being cherry picked and fed to the people here is what's frustrating and infuriating, because like I said, we see the video, we see the media going in to Aguadilla, to Ponce, to all these different places that haven't had the aid get to them yet, to Vieques that was bombed, used as a testing site by us. Just getting food now, 11 days. Let's put members of the administration and Congress and the senators, let's put them in a room with no food or water or electricity, and let's see how long they last.
Do it for 11 hours, let alone 11 days.
Exactly. It's frustrating, and it's so much needs to be done. And listen, the island's been devastated. We all know this. And it's time for empathy. It's time for understanding. It's not time to pick fights. I feel like it's a sandbox, and it's like who's kicking sand in whose face this time around. Mm-hmm. When I just heard on the news that, the president is in Jersey and he was at a golf tournament, and he dedicated the trophy to the island of Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
What are we going to do with that?
Yeah.
What does that mean? It's like the message is tone deaf. It's mind-boggling. The level of insensitivity. I don't know if I've said mind-boggling enough. It just seems like I don't even know what else.
No, because it is.
I wonder if we hear the stories, and you're right. If you don't just look at the local news, look at the global news, look at the images coming out of the island, and I don't think it's quite hit everyone really, like you're saying, just how bad the devastation on the island is. I mean, I do believe that some of the issues may just be that, yes, there was a lack of preparation on someone's part.
Yeah.
And you do only have but so much time before, knowing that this Category 5 is going to hit the island and then it hits. And, sure, it's an island, but, I don't think anyone was really prepared for the level of damage that was going to be done, and not really even, maybe even not realizing, wow, when it destroys this much, and when all the power is out on the island, and when nearly, half the trees are down and they're crossing roads, and there are telephone poles and cars and vehicles and buildings strewn all over the roadways, you're not going to be able to just drive your Humvee through. You're not just going to be able to get a truck through. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to resort to, full-scale airlifts and, serious logistical planning to get supplies into remote areas. And that, I think, also is the other piece of it. I've never been lucky enough to go to Puerto Rico, and I believe I have some family there somewhere. But it's not just the big cities. It's not just San Juan. It's not just, there's a lot of extremely rural locations there, which are the easiest to get to. And it's
mountainous, exactly. And for example, my husband's family is from a place called Humacao. It's not that far from the rainforest. Those places like that have been cut off,
right? Because
trees are down, power line, everything is obstructing the roadway. So yes, you can't get to it. But it just seems like even the agriculture has been obliterated. Right. No coffee, how can you rebuild that? And I get it. Yes, no one knew. Obviously, we none of us, I think, would be able to foresee the level of damage that Maria did to the island.
Mm-hmm.
But the delay, I think that we can all agree that the delay of how to take care of the people
yes.
is what muddied this. Because, listen, I'll give the administration credit. All over it for Harvey in Texas, all over it in Florida for Irma and Louisiana and other places that were hit, going in and all hands on deck.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're doing the comparison, that wasn't done this time around. You know, like, again, you have, like, as of yesterday, there was one fully functioning hospital.
I got to jump in here.
Yeah.
I got to jump in here because when I heard there were 2 hospitals that had to be evacuated because a generator caught on fire,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at some point, when you hear day 11 and 95% of the people don't have power, I mean, at some point, you kind of, I think you stop with your rhetoric. You stop with
Exactly.
the tweets. You stop with blaming, you know, the mayor of San Juan, who is basically the voice for the other mayors,
Right.
and you get down to business. And especially when you hear your 3-star general say, this is much worse than what I've ever envisioned.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think.
And yes, and then you have, you know, you have so many people that need in the hospital. You know, children in pediatrics departments. You know, and that is what's heart-wrenching to hear the rhetoric continue. Because at what point do you just stop? At what point do you pull it back and just say, you know what, that's it. I've gone too far. You know, because the constant jabs helps no one. You know, and because there's still people who are suffering. So that, like, there is no rhyme or reason. You know, and when you have, like I said, when you have celebrities, there's the chef. His name is Jose Andres, who had a lawsuit with him over he was going to be the chef in the hotel, I guess, in D.C. He's down in Puerto Rico feeding people in hospitals, right, getting food trucks out to the people, making sure people are fed, because that is what people need. People don't care about the rhetoric. People don't care about, because they're living it. So, you know, having the president say, oh, don't believe fake news. Really? Because I'm knee-deep in sewer water.
Right.
So who am I going to believe? You know, and there needs to be, I guess, like a reset. And the adults need to take over and say, okay, this is what we need. Like the 3-star general who said, wow, this is beyond anything I thought. You know, and that's where we need to be. We need to be in the stage where, yes, we were late. Just admit it. Admit it. Everyone admits they're wrong. Admit it. It was delayed. It shouldn't have been. It was. People have lost their lives in the process, because that's another thing that's not being reported, is the loss of life.
Right.
People literally need medications. They're not getting it. They're dying. That's another part of this whole thing that really isn't being covered. You know, but it's like you said earlier, outside of San Juan, there is the rest of the island that still needs to be tended to. And that was the point that the mayor was making. Mm-hmm. You know, San Juan is the metro area, it's the capital. But there are other places where people need help. People drinking water from a creek should not be happening in an American territory.
Right.
Like, we get supplies to the International Space Station. We can't get supplies to Puerto Rico? Right. Come on.
Yes.
I mean, you know, you also kind of wonder, because of the level of devastation. I mean, I know it's more people than you could feasibly do it with, but do you start looking at evacuations of some, you know, areas? Mm-hmm. Do you say, all right, we need to, you know, set up temporary housing just like we would have done, or just like was done, you know, when hurricanes hit major cities on the mainland? Well, let's get people out, ferry them over, fly them over, do whatever you got to do, get them into safety, get them into shelter, start rebuilding, and let them live here for however long it takes. and start. You have to start rebuilding the island. It is at that level where go ahead.
I completely not to. This just came to my mind. It's. Remember when we lost our collective minds during the blackout?
Yes.
Can you imagine that for 11 days?
Right.
The only thing I can even remotely compare it to, and I know it's not it's just a partial, would have been Superstorm Sandy when that hit New York, because in our area on Long Island, trees were down all over the place. Power was out. There are many people who did go without power for weeks.
Yeah.
I
remember LIPA had.
Yep, LIPA was done. I had to buy a generator.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, I had to buy a generator to power the house, for an extended period of times, and was the only house with light on the block for a while. Became the community shower.
And that's what you do, right? You open your doors for the people in your community, because that's what humans do.
Normally.
Yes. Well, yes. Very true.
But but we do. There's going to need to be a reset for the island, both in, like you're saying, in both the attitude and outlook towards the response, and also just almost a physical reset of, like you're saying, the coffee fields. Plants just won't regrow again right away. The top layer of soil has been torn away. This may not repair itself for decades. You never know. I'm sure the major structures, like the hotels and in the major cities, you got to figure the concrete buildings are standing just fine. But again, though I've never been there, I'm fully aware that there are many areas in there which were, more shack-like, more very light structures. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I know the wind tore down houses, tore down trees. It had to do horrendous things to those neighborhoods. So all of this is going to have to be rebuilt. It's going to take
absolutely
tons of money. They may have to, logistically think about infrastructure. Well, let's not put the power lines above ground anymore. Let's bury power lines. Money, time. There's so much that's going to have to get done to the island, but it's a territory of the United States. It should get done.
And they pay taxes. And they pay
taxes, yes.
And there's so many misconceptions, and what I feel like what makes it worse they're not even dog whistles. They're just outright safety guard whistles that are they beep you through so you can let a kid cross the street. They're very blatant, whistles and the rhetoric and tone and everything else. And, people are sensitive. Right. We have, there's been race has always been an issue in this country. And I think, I feel like it's our original sin. Let's call it what it is. And I feel like, over the last, year and a half, 2 years, it's been bubbling to the surface. And even further back, Obama, this predates Obama, but I feel like we saw it. The hood started coming off, right. and I feel like people were more bold in saying how they feel over the last decade. But I feel like it's time to lead, and it's time to put people at ease and let people know what we stand for as a country and what we should stand for, and the rights that we have as American citizens and what we're entitled to under those rights. And I feel like, with whether it's tragedies like hurricanes, natural disasters like hurricanes, or, things like Charlottesville and even things that predate that, there needs to be a tone that needs to be reset in the conversation of this country. The fabric of this country, I feel, is coming apart by words that do more harm than good. And I feel that this tragedy, this devastation of a hurricane needs to be, I guess, a starting point for conversations, for us to talk to each other instead of through each other. And I feel like it needs to be a time where we come together and help collectively, whether it's, donating our time, donating our resources, donating, to different organizations to help Puerto Rico, but just help in general, because a lot of people in this country are suffering, and I feel like we need to collectively come together and do our part to heal, because I feel like we're like a wound that keeps getting ripped apart.
I just want to jump in and add in this piece. There's a couple of things here, just to summarize this overall conversation. The scab, the Band-Aid was ripped off the scab, I believe, around about 2008 when Obama was voted in and sworn in 2009. I want to then jump to the point of this issue. I really want people to stop saying this is going to be Trump's Katrina.
Yes.
Because with Bush, there was a logistics issue.
Yes.
You know, whether it was him being inept, this is a morale type issue.
Yes.
This is a type of issue of, well, you know what? They're really not, but they really are. And what do you mean this is a U.S. territory? Well, they owe money and their infrastructure is old. And all I've heard is excuses. And there's a reason why, and not to browbeat the president, but there's a reason why he sent out 17 tweets regarding Puerto Rico in the last 24 hours.
Right.
Yes. Absolutely.
You know, so we have to be mindful and hold everyone accountable.
Absolutely.
That's from my heart to your ears. That's how I feel. So I just want to know, Jessie, do you have or are you creating something on any of your brands or your websites on best ways to donate? Because what we want to do as Late Night Parents is link back to that website. Link back to that blog post, or maybe we could work together this week on.
Well, we definitely can. I don't have anything written. I've been retweeting and forwarding a lot of the information that's been out there. I have, for example, real quick, NewYorkCity.gov. If you're in the city, there are fire stations you can donate goods to, diapers and baby formula and batteries and things like that. The HispanicFederation.org is also taking donations. WorldCentralKitchen.org is where the chef Jose Andres is getting funds together to feed the people that need the help, that need the food, that are hungry to feed their families. So there are those three organizations that I've retweeted and have personally donated to or given or provided donations to. And it's those are the three core that I've been focused on. I know there are others. I know, for example, Jorge Posada and his wife, they've been flying to Puerto Rico because they still have family there. They've been, chartering flights and providing donations. I know there was something in the Javits Center with Fat Joe and other, hip hop artists that have been collecting water and food and other canned goods to send out there. So there is a lot. And that's also, I think, something that we need to be mindful of is making sure that where we're sending it, it will get to the people that need it.
That's the key piece right there. Because there's been so many times in the past, and Rich and I have talked about this, where you donate and a small percentage makes its way to the actual party that's in need.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really think you need to find and do a little bit of research. Sure, you can trust the big names, obviously, but I really want to do some research, find out the locations, who you can donate to, where you can donate to, either, again, materially or financially, and really ensure that the resources you donate get to those who are in need, because that's the big thing. You can feel good about it yourself and have all the best intentions even, but if it still doesn't get there, or it doesn't get there as much as it should get there, it still doesn't matter.
Absolutely, and as New Yorkers, Puerto Ricans are the fabric of the state, especially in New York City. And the governor also has, I believe, on New York State's website, that they're doing, along with Jennifer Lopez and Mark Anthony and other celebrities, putting something together to help and to get goods out to people on the island. And there are NYPD and FDNY out there now helping in the rescues and just in aiding people to getting them, like you were saying, getting them out of those remote areas and into shelters or wherever else where they can get the help and the supplies and resources they need. So it's, thankfully people have aided the call and have been helping our fellow, Americans or fellow humans. And decency is still there. It's still there.
Yes, well, everyone, you have been listening to Rich, Ted, and our guest, Jessie Nuez, on Late Night Parents from WGBB 1240 AM in Long Island. Jessie, not to cut you off here because I know we can talk about this forever.
Yes.
Again, do you have anywhere that you would like to focus our listeners to besides those locations you already mentioned? Any other points you'd like to make? Anything else you'd like to say?
Thank you for having me on. Obviously, as always, it's a pleasure. And let's just keep in mind that what's important are the people, and it's important to cut through the noise and focus on what matters. Because the Twitter feuds don't help the people that are going hungry.
Right. Well, Jessie, thank you so much again.
Thank you.
We're very happy to hear that your family are alive,
yes,
and as well as can be, given the situations. Yes. Keep us posted.
Thank you. Will do.
And we'll be in contact with you shortly.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a great evening.
You too. Thank you.
You too.
Good to speak with Jessie. Even under these, uncertain times and these circumstances, but always great to speak with her.
She was, like I said, one of the first people we thought of, because we always are going back and forth, talking about all these different topics all the time, and I don't know, like I said, knowing what the rhetoric that was going on, I thought it was apropos for her to come on, share her thoughts, and also her concerns on, the recovery plan. So that was a great segment. Rich, I want to mention to you, as we segue away from the plight of Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands, and with the impending visit this week with the president, I'm not sure about you, but I'm an Islanders fan.
Yes.
I love the NHL and everything it does. There's nothing happening at Nassau Coliseum, but the location everyone is talking about is the Belmont. The Belmont location is so key because it's undeveloped.
Wait, are you saying that there are talks for the Islanders to relocate to Belmont racetrack location?
I've got one even better. There were 3 RFPs that went in during the deadline. 1 with the Islanders, 2 New York City Football Club, which currently their home is Yankee Stadium, and 3 submitted by none other than Ed Mangano, Amazon.
What?
Amazon for their second headquarters. So if you aren't already sick of Amazon and hearing about them, they are jumping in for their potential second headquarters to be in New York.
That would be huge. Hey, does that mean one-day delivery on everything?
I guess a one-day delivery. No-day delivery.
Right.
No-day delivery. Is it painful? Are you getting tired of them? Are you kind of like, okay, enough already?
As far as Amazon, no, because I see Amazon as almost like they're not the competitor even, but Google and Amazon together run the world these days. I mean, you got to admit, for everything that they've done, which has, by proxy done ill, a lot of small businesses are out because of Amazon, let's be realistic. A lot of medium-sized businesses, for that matter, are out because of Amazon. But, in its own way, that is the evolution of the market, the evolution of shopping. It's all these companies are going out of business, not because Amazon strong-armed anyone, but because they provided a service which the people wanted in a way that the people could very easily use it, cost-effectively, ease, everything that you want. So I'm not saying that, it's a good thing that these companies and these people are being put out of work and these businesses are going out of business, but I think it's an evolution of business itself.
I just think they cut the margin to the point where there's a negative margin, and their war chest is bigger than anyone else's war chest.
Right. But how's that war chest get so big? They had to make money somewhere. If the margins are that thin, but you've got a super thin margin, but you're selling 100 times the volume, it's still a win.
Well, mergers and acquisitions.
Yeah.
You get to a point where, okay, they're not going to be able to live. We can outlive X, Y, and Z. I mean, look at the brick and mortar stores now.
Yeah. I mean, look at the big ones, like you're saying. Sears. That's what's
Sears. I can buy 10 more products off Amazon. That right there.
Yeah.
It kind of makes me sick, but at the same time, these smaller companies or these legacy companies didn't adjust.
Right.
So I don't know.
So what do you think? What do you think happens next? Where do you think it goes in 10 years? I'm going way out and saying 10 years.
10 years?
Yeah.
Well, 10 years is there's going to be like 4 or 5 companies that you choose for everything.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
That's just going to be 4 or 5 companies for everything. And I think it's primarily the companies that you are seeing right now.
Right. I would agree. Amazon will be around. Google will be around. Apple will be around. Start naming names after that, it might get kind of tight.
I think Facebook will be around.
Facebook will be around, yes, for sure. Interesting.
But the mom and pop, it's a dying breed. Is it even beneficial for the small business, for people to have their small businesses nowadays? Because you can't compete.
Right.
Because, of course, you're going to sell whatever product that you're selling or service you're selling. You're going to sell it with the margin.
Right.
But if someone is undercutting your margin, I tend to say an Amazon will take out like a Walmart eventually.
Yeah.
Amazon, you think so? Or
no, I think it's getting near that level. I mean, the thing is, you're always going to hold on to a certain market that needs the physical interaction, the physical touch, walk in, the supermarket type experience.
Right.
Perishables are one thing. I mean, granted, anything can be delivered in dry ice, basically, right? But perishables are one thing. But you're still going to always need some level of immediate shopping experience, in clothing, in textile. That's always just going to need to be around. But will that still be a different arm of, like, Amazon? Well, like you're saying, will you have the Amazon store branded differently so people don't even think about it, that they're still shopping at Amazon, but it's just the local inventory where you can go pick it up? Do the small owners, the small businesses then just start using Amazon as their inventory supplier? And that I could see that happening, and you never even know it, and they're just making orders, and deliveries are happening and keeping stock replenished to a bare minimum, and you're shopping at Amazon and you think you're shopping at mom and pops. You never know how this all plays out.
You never know. I just think what we're seeing now with Whole Foods, we're going to see with other establishments, where you'll still have that physical place where you can walk in and you can pull up into a parking spot, but I think overall, they rule the world.
Yeah.
I think they rule the world, but what was the other thing I was going to say about them? I think I lost my train of thought. But, oh, it was about the Amazon Go. What I think people will really open their eyes when that Amazon Go kicks in and you walk into a store and there's no cashiers.
Right.
You walk into a store, there's no waiting online.
Right.
You bag your stuff, you leave it in a shopping cart, and you take it out to your car. Your account is debited.
I can basically do that now at my Stop and Shop. If I think I have to sign up for it, and I have not, but they have a little device at the front door, and I guess you have to sign up for it ahead of time. But you walk through with the device, scanning whatever you put into your cart. You still have a checkout. They have not eliminated that, but you don't have to take anything out of the cart. Of course, you just swipe the device at the self-service register. It checks it, and you pay for it however you want to pay for it, and you walk out the door.
We're there.
We are just about there. I mean, there were technologies tested. Letting let the items get scanned automatically while walking through the aisles. And like you said, debiting, and I don't know what other technologies they're planning on using or testing for this process, but yeah, you're right. It's going to get to that point sooner than later where the cashier is gone. You walk in, it has already scanned everything you've put into your cart. You walk out, it's paid for as you walk out the door. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Yeah. So I met a bunch of people, I got to tell you, Rich, today at this event. So we got a slew of people that are going to be coming through in the next few weeks. We're going to have, some of our regulars, but just kind of a different flavor.
Okay.
We'll keep you up to date on that type of stuff.
So tell me a little bit more about today's event. I know I saw some photos on social media. You were there on ground level.
Yeah, it was. The Jets, their PR team does it really well. They do it really well, and it was really focusing on the fan experience.
Okay.
So we did a little bit of VR.
Nice.
Virtual reality. We walked around to see the actual booths where, the color commentators are calling the game. We were down in the tunnels. We were there on the field, and then got to enjoy the game at one of their suites.
Very nice.
So it was something that they had last year. I didn't attend last year. I got an invite again this year. And, I just think the problem that people are running into nowadays is the ticket prices are so high for the NFL.
Right.
Okay? I can tell you for one, because last week I wasn't on the show, and I spent $240 for a ticket.
Wow.
$240 for section 133, row 1 at FedEx Field. And the real situation was, how is that experience different from sitting at home with your favorite beer, watching it on a 4K TV, in your, pajamas and bunny slippers.
In your own personal recliner.
Right. That's what it comes down to.
It's only about the stadium experience. That's really all there is to it. Unless you can go to the big game. You go into the big show.
Right.
Or you're a super fan, which I think you're a super fan. You are. You admit it.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. But that in-stadium experience is what we were talking through, and and they were kind of highlighting. But as great as the event was, every fan does not get to see or to witness that type of experience.
Right.
Because they're just going in, they're spending their money, and that's that. So I really want to see what that morphs into.
Well, you know, it's funny. We're talking about fan experience, and I know we're getting close on time, but that kind of does go into something that, again, in my NASCAR experience that I had last week, something that's huge to them is having the fans really get to experience what it's like for the races, what it's like on the track. And I don't know if all the tracks do this, but at Charlotte, you have multiple levels of ticket you can buy. You can buy a ticket for a race, which you sit, you know, in the grandstands and watch the race, and it's great. If you're a fan, it's wonderful. You're at the race, you get to see everything. The view is phenomenal. It's awesome. There's another level of ticket, and we're not talking thousands of dollars. We're not talking hundreds of dollars, where you can get a pit pass ticket, I believe it's called, and you can walk in the infield where all the drivers are set up, and their crews are there. The drivers are walking in the areas. You can get, you know, within a couple of feet of your favorite race car driver, and they're accessible. They talk with the fans. They're right there, and you're in the middle of it all until, of course, the race starts, and then, of course, you have to clear out. But they are huge on fan involvement, fan engagement. Again, we'll be discussing some more of that on both Dada Rocks, our sister podcast, sister blog, and on Late Night Parents. We'll have some information on that, both locations. But Ted, it's about that time. I know you are sitting in the car, so we got to let you get home.
All right.
How do we reach Ted when he's not here?
Real Ted Hicks. That's about it.
And you know me, I am Late Night Rich. Everyone, have a great week. Thanks for listening to us, and we will see you next time.